Hello, everybody. This is CJ Wiley with more adventures on the road. Hope you're doing well. Had a little hiccup in my last one. It's all for the best, though. I probably shouldn't be doing videos when it's bumper to bumper traffic going 70 miles an hour. But I was up till 8:30 this morning. I'm getting barraged by input about ShootorDare, and man, we've booked 5 qualifiers, and now it's a long story, but I've never felt this good about pool, because I just lost my enthusiasm, and I know a lot of the players can relate to what I'm saying. That you know, it's just been evident that the pool players haven't been put first, and at a point, I think it's more work to fix it than to recreate it. And I'm a big believer in having a great foundation for whatever I'm doing. I teach pool from the foundation up, from the feet up, because the feet control the rest of your body. And, that's something I've talked about before, about a lot of people control their body with their head instead of their head with the body. That's like the tail wagging the dog instead of the dog wagging the tail. So, and then when I point that out, it's very obvious, and people are like, man, why didn't I see that? Well, we only recognize what we're familiar with. And it's funny because one of my old buddies that knows the two-shot shootout rules and loved them just about as much as Keith McCready and Buddy Hall, we had a conversation, and he was like, well, who actually showed you at the beginning how to play that game and developed your knowledge? Because if it hadn't been for that game, I never would have developed the knowledge to apply to the tournament style play. Because when I went to my first tournament, one of my first opponents was Efren Reyes. You may have heard of him. He, is pretty intimidating to play, but I just, I used that mindset of the two-shot shootout, which ShootorDare is a refined version, because there was some flaws in that game that slowed it up, and that's why they say they changed the rules. But they could have tweaked it, and I not only tweaked it, but I added something called the pocket zone that makes it complete, because I want to see it back on a major TV platform. But the first one, that I really saw play the game great was Omaha John, and I traveled with him for a while. And then when I played this old man up in Indianapolis, who I didn't know, he had coveralls on and a John Deere hat, and I'd already beat those people around that bar out of several thousand, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. We've been playing all night, and this old man comes in and he gets some coffee, and he just wanders over and sits down, and real nice looking. I figured he was a truck driver, a farmer or something. Well, they came over and they said, see that old man over there? He'll play you some. I was with Chuck Bradley at the time, and I looked at Chuck, and after the guy walked away, and I said, Chuck, I sensed something fishy. I said, why would that guy want to play me? I've already showed a pretty high level of speed, and that guy doesn't look like a pool player, which means he might be an incredible pool player. The world's inverted. So, if somebody leads you to something that's obvious, like if it's too good to be true, it probably is. You can almost live by that. So anyway, Chuck was like, you can't beat that old man. Are you kidding me? Get up there. So I kind of reluctantly did. And of course, we're playing the two-shot shootout rules, which they called roll out or push out. When I was with Rusty Brandemeyer, he used to call it two-shot roll around. He's the one that would go up to people and say, me and my partner will play you and your partner some partners. Partner. Man, that worked every time. And of course, I was his partner, and we looked like brothers. So one of us would play real good and the other one wouldn't. And then after we beat them playing partners, then they'd always pick on the weaker link, which was usually me. And he just got to, play his top speed. He didn't like to stall like I did and didn't do it as well. He just was automatically pocketing balls. But I could miss on purpose. That's the only time I ever look at a contact point, I've told people, but it's true. everybody thinks you look at the contact point and aim. And if you can do that with results, then keep doing it. But the only time I do that's to miss on purpose, because the way that I aim, it's totally natural. And, the instinct is heightened so much because my alignment is really good on every shot. And there's only 2 alignment positions. Anyway, I've got into that before. I won't do that again. CJWiley.com has the videos on that, technique. But back to Vernon Elliott. So I started playing him, and, I didn't know at first what was going on, but he kept rolling out to these shots that it didn't look like there was anything there. So I would pass it back to him. Well, he would take like a bank shot or a cut shot. He might even cut the ball on the side where I didn't even see it. I'd look at cutting it in either corner. I'd give it back to him. He'd cut it in the side. So he showed me that, the knowledge is being able to see more options and to calculate them, the percentages, to not only make the ball, but to play shape and use another ball on the table to block the pocket. So you can shoot at really hard shots, play safe, and play, position on the next ball at the same time. We call that the 3-way shot. A lot of people talk about 2-way shots, but in one pocket, you shoot 3-way shots a lot. But see, in one foul, especially with jump cues, there is really no 3-way shots, because if you block the pocket with another ball, they just take out their little jump cue and jump over the ball and make it. So they took out a very, very important part of the game, and nobody seemed to notice. Well, a few did. Like I said, Keith McCready and Buddy Hall, and of course Omaha John and David Matlock and, Alan Hopkins and Larry Hubbard and Jimmy Reed. See, they were all experts at the 2-foul game because everybody gambled at it. And if somebody wanted to play, the Texas Express type rules, they just laugh at them and say, I'm not kicking at my money. You crazy? Because the kicking element, even though, it's become a part of the game, it's like kicking a basketball. If they all of a sudden allowed the players to kick the basketball, after a while, everybody would accept it, and there'd probably be an art form to it where there'd be guys like on one side of the court kicking the ball into the basket. But kicking doesn't belong in basketball, and it really doesn't belong in pool. But that's how they created the game that's going on now. And hey, if people like to play that, I'm always going to, I want them to, that's kind of how I got my reputation as far as, at least the tournaments is playing that game. So I kick really well, and I can jump balls, and I can do all that because I had to learn that. It's like when in Rome, do as the Romans. So, I'm not complaining about kicking because, I don't kick as good as Efren, but I kick pretty close, and I can hit the side of the ball I want with the speed I want to get the best, percentage of getting safe or separating the balls, putting them end rail to end rail. Efren kicks them in better than I do, but I've always wanted to ask him, what odds he would take, like that Z bank that he makes that's so, famous. And by the way, Earl beat me the match before that to play Efren when that shot happened, because I always laugh, because if I would have beat Earl, which it went, I think hill, or I had a chance to get on the hill and didn't, or something like that, but it was close. But if I would have beat Earl and played Efren that next match, that shot never would have happened. The chances of that coming up with Earl and me is 0.000. No chance of that. But, back to the Vernon Elliott. So he kept doing that. He kept pushing out to shots. And you see, they didn't have a pocket zone, so he could just play safe. But he kept pushing out shots that I just didn't understand. And I was only 19, so I really hadn't been seasoned, except with Omaha John and Dalton Leone, the Asian master, and, Rusty Brandemeyer. I still had been seasoned, but not like what Vernon put on me. Because he banked so well and he cut balls so well and he used that touch of inside, that's, I could tell, not at the time, but, looking back, all those great players did it and didn't realize it. It's just when you cue it to the inside slightly, it changes your perception slightly. or that you cut the ball slightly thinner every time. Because think about it. When you dog a ball, do you overcut it or undercut it? That's right, you undercut it. And it feels different. Like when I undercut a ball, man, I feel like I got stabbed sometimes inside. But when I overcut a ball, I just didn't make it. And generally, the odds of getting safe overcutting the ball is much better than when you undercut one. Plus, you don't get that feeling of dogging it. So, like if I'm playing really, really good, I'll never undercut a shot. I mean, I might play for 20 straight hours and I'll miss a few balls, but not on the undercut side. I'll overcut it, and if things are going well and I'm hitting the right shot speed, even when I miss, I don't give my opponent a shot. And that's kind of demoralizing when you're playing someone that plays a super high level and when they miss, they still get safe or leave you a harder shot than they had. And they think it's luck, but it's really not luck. Consistent luck is a skill. Remember that. In just about everything. So Vernon continued to do that. And even though he was out moving me, I still had an offense that, I kept running like 2 or 3 racks in a row to get caught up. So we stayed pretty even. And tell you the truth, and somebody mentioned that to me, that he may have been stalling with me a little bit, which I kind of suspected because we were supposed to play the next day. And I told Chuck, I said, man, call those people and tell them that my dad died and I need to leave town because I do not want to play that old man again, because there was something in his eyes. When he got down on the ball, it was like lasers, but his physical appearance didn't look like a pool player. Like I said, he looked more like a farmer or a truck driver or just, a country type guy that I was familiar to, with seeing where I grew up in northern Missouri, in Green City, Missouri. It was a farming town. So all those older men wore like bib overalls and always wore like, John Deere hats or some type of farming equipment hat or whatever the case may be. So I was used to seeing that. But of course, none of them could play pool, and certainly none of them was the faceless man. That's what they called him. Vernon Elliott, the faceless man. So after 12 straight hours, we were playing for 200 a game, and we ended up breaking even. And so we quit. And we're supposed to play the next day. Like I said, I canceled because when Chuck and I went out to breakfast to like a Denny's afterwards, and I had a headache that lasted about 3 hours from playing him that game. Because you see, ShootorDare is way more, it's a cognitive type game. It's a cerebral game. It's a mental, it's got all the facets of, the best parts of one pocket, but it's still a rotation game. So you run the balls in rotation. So, you still get the shot making and you still got to play position like 9-ball. It's a perfect blend, let's just say. So I'm at a tournament here at Rusty's. See Rusty's over there? That's right. It's pretty cool. You can do this stuff in the parking lot. But I'm playing in a 10-ball tournament tonight where they got to play even. I've been playing these handicap tournaments. Good grief, Around here, I got to go to 4 and everybody's got to go to 2. And then they have one that's like, they changed it to 5 and 3. But you know how hard it is to win 4-2 against players when there's so much luck in the game? You got to beat them 4-1 to win. So if they win one game, they're on the hill. I just don't really particularly like that. But if we were playing a game with more content, then at least it would be enjoyable and they would have to beat me fair and square instead of, when somebody misses and hooks you and doesn't leave you a shot, that's the part of 9-ball that I really like the least. Because players are rewarded for a bad shot. See, the ShootorDare is scientifically designed. I put it in an actual formula, like a profit and loss statement, or a balance sheet, so that I could identify all the weaknesses and the strengths in pool and move all the weak components to the strength side. And to do that, I had to eliminate a few things, like the racking and the braking has just got out of control. Federer Gorse said he thought 9-ball was 80% the break, and the rack, I probably think he would say, and probably 5% is his jumping ability. So the actual game itself is only 15% of what it could be, where ShootorDare is probably 95%. And I'm going to keep trying to get it to 100%, even though, 100% just isn't realistic in anything that I've ever done. But when you get in the high 90s, that's going to be strong. And so, we're coming out with the promotional material here in a little bit. My partner is finishing up the final touches of that. And our first tournament is going to be July the 15th in Delaware, which is right in between the Maryland and, Philadelphia and, Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Virginia. It's a great, great area for pool. There's a lot of pool players there. And Brandon Shuff's around there, and there's some really good players. And then a guy contacted me earlier, that wanted me to go to New York to teach the game and do, at least talk to some of those guys that are promoters up there, I guess, because they want to run a tournament as well. So we may have, this may, develop into an East Coast type tour, ShootorDare tour, because what I want to do is section off the United States, and I want to do the East Coast all the way down to Miami, all the way up to Maine and New York and all those Northeast states and cities. But then I want to do probably the second area that I'll start scheduling is Texas, Dallas, Texas, because we got Oklahoma and Louisiana, and it's pretty centrally located, and there's a ton of players down here. And right now it's hot. Everybody's gambling. Like right now they're playing a ring game in there for quite a bit of money, and they play it almost every day. And they have fun doing it. They rib each other, but you can win 400 or 500 every day, that they play, which is pretty cool. And, they all play pretty well, and they, I'm sure they, elevate their game because they get to play that action so much. But, anyway, that's just a little update. And the other player that I should mention, I briefly did, is Rusty Brandemeyer. And I was going to St. Louis when I was probably about 17. And I stopped in this bar, where's that? In O'Fallon, I think's the name of it. It was there was a truck stop we all used to play at. And then there was a bar before you got to that. And they all had action. Those truck drivers would play like $20 or $30 a game and lose a few hundred just for entertainment. So I stopped in there, and this guy came up to me and asked me if I wanted to gamble. Again, too good to be true. So I played him, and he beat me. I mean, he just played full blast. Well, that was Rusty Brandemeyer. Like I said, he didn't stall very well, so, and he really couldn't against me. But he beat me. And afterwards, I went out, I was like, man, who are you? And he just smiled, and he said, Rusty Brandemeyer. I said, man, I've heard of you. You're from Houston, aren't you? Which, I don't think he's from Houston, but he stayed down in Houston. He played about the 8-ball under Earl Strickland, and played like, James Christopher and Sammy Jones. And there was a crew of them down there in Houston that played really well and gambled a lot. And Rusty was one of the best players there. And he's an overall great player. He played 9-ball. He got second at the Atlantic City major tournament one year. And then, let's see, his best game was probably bank pool. Like he beat Clyde Childress like he wasn't nothing. Danny Biley told me that story where Rusty beat like 3 of the best bank pool players in Kentucky back to back to back, and he said it was brutal. He said he beat them so bad it looked like they had never played before. Because he got in those zones. I mean, I went in with him in St. Louis where they played one pocket really well. And we went in this pool room, and he matched up a game. He gave like one of the best players like 9-7 or 10-7. And I mean, beat him so fast, it was like I didn't even really get a chance to watch it very much. He beat him like 4 or 5 games in a row, just banked something in, ran out, banked something in, ran out. You know, he played about like Tony Chohan, you know. I mean, Tony may be a hair better, but not more than a hair. I mean, Rusty Brandemeyer was something else. So when we went on the road together, it was a lot of fun because he looked pretty young. I think he was 28 and I was like 18 at that time. And we just had a ball, you know. We were in Evansville, Indiana playing. We won a lot of money there. And one of the places we went was the Busybody Lounge, which was a strip club with one pool table. So we got in with the strippers there and told them, if you can get somebody to play us pool, we'll give you 20% of what we win. Well, they liked that idea. So they'd be over there with guys talking and point over there and say, man, look at that guy over there. He loses so much money playing pool every night. And man, it's sexy to watch people play pool. Do you play pool? And they say, yeah, I play pool, baby, you know, and they would encourage them to go over and play us, you know, because we were such big suckers, of course. And we beat them out like 500, give the girl 100, and she was just, as happy as a fat kid in a cake shop. So we had like 5 of them working for us. So they would, every time we went in there, and of course they just loved us, and we would party with them. And again, I was 18 years old, so it was quite the life. And, fortunately later in life, I especially through my martial arts training, I had to get more disciplined. And my mother suggests I go to the Army or something at one time, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I'd used martial arts and picked the one that, you know, was the most strenuous, had a real strong, you know, code of ethics, really. And it helped me quite a bit, you know, to simmer down, because when I was young, I had the freedom to just do whatever I want. And, you know, and when you're that age and you're around those type of temptations, it catches up with a lot of guys, you know, and that's why they end up hurting their minds and bodies. And I was very lucky to dodge that bullet. And I have a lot of people to thank, especially like Strong Arm John. He was a great influence and taught me the importance of working out every day. And man, he's 72 years old, and still every place he goes in, he's the best. He's in the best shape of anybody in the room. You can just about bet on it. Even at the gyms. I mean, he's just a work of art, you know, but he's put so much time. I mean, he worked out every day. There was times where I'd take him to a 24-hour gym, like a Gold's Gym, at like 3 a.m. and drop him off. And then I'd come back in like an hour and 15 minutes and he had worked out, taken a shower, and then, we'd go eat at like a IHOP or Denny's or Waffle House or a place like that. And he always ate really healthy. And, so it just rubbed off on me, man. He was like a big brother that I never had. So I was very fortunate. You know, you got to look at who you're hanging around, because, there's a saying we have, show me who you're with and I'll tell you how you are. Think about that. Till next time, if you want to know more about ShootorDare, go to ShootorDare.com. It's like Truth or Dare, but on a pool table. And my systems fundamentals and techniques are at CJWiley.com. And we're taking, you can go to ShootorDare.com and get on our mailing list. And if you want to help us to run some tournaments throughout the country, this is the time to get on, because the train is pulling out. Whoever wants to get on, get on. And whoever wants to get off, get off. But the train is leaving, starting July 15th in Delaware. Hope to see you there. Till that time, till tomorrow, I'm going to give you another update. We're working on some big things. I was up till 8:30 this morning, and man, I'm getting texts and private messages from all over the place. I booked 12 lessons today in Goldsboro, North Carolina. So I'm going to make a trip. When I go to Delaware, I'm going to stop in like Shreveport, Monroe, in Alabama, going in Atlanta. I've got several people I work with in Atlanta, and work my way out South Carolina. And I got to be in Goldsboro the first week in June, and I got to be up in Delaware to start all my clinics, and I'm going to teach people the highest level of the ShootorDare in, a controlled format through seminars and clinics. And of course, I still will give private lessons if people want to do that. And that's going to be between June the 7th and 10th is when I'm getting up there. And then I'm staying for about, a month and a half, probably, through July 15th. So anyway, if you want to schedule something on the way out there, I'm open. You can, private message me on Facebook or, cjwiley@gmail.com is the best way to reach me. So again, till next time, this is CJ. I'll talk with you soon.